Yes. So when I was graduating from college, I realized there was an option for me to do a 1 year internship in a hospital, in a laboratory. And that if I did that, I could get a license to be able to be a medical technologist, which literally would just give me independence and be able to support myself. And that's how it started. And I did finish that internship. I loved the microbiology part of the laboratory the most. I knew I wanted to be a microbiologist. And so I became a microbiologist and I worked in a small lab, and then I moved into a university laboratory setting. And I got to work with some really highly educated folks in that lab. I worked at a university hospital in San Diego, and met a lot of infectious disease specialists, physicians. I got to do rounds with them. And the infection control nurse at that time was really a lovely lady. And she was a nurse. And it was always the infection control nurse. I wasn't a nurse, I was a scientist. I looked at myself as a scientist, as a microbiologist. But she saw in me that I was curious and that I really wanted to know more than just be looking at my auger plates and naming organisms. And we would get into conversations about some of these patients because she'd be up on the floor and she knew the patients and she'd talk about the patients and she brought me relevance to what I was doing. And this was back in the 70s, the late 70s, the early 80s. And I really saw that I wanted more than just being disconnected in the laboratory. When you're in the lab, it's such a silo. And some people really like that. And all of a sudden I realized my personality actually was bigger than that, than just enjoying my day of doing my work and going home, but then putting it away at the end of the day. So I had curiosity about these patients and their situations. And because I was working with infectious disease physicians who were professors, they often stopped by my bench and they would explain things to me that were so interesting that I did not learn as in my microbiology training. And so I knew there was more, and this wasn't going to be enough for me. Yeah, so that's how I knew about infection prevention as a career.